Hey guys, Stockton here from MediAuthentic, and what we're going to do in this video is walk through the setting up of a GTM container that you can use as sort of a base template for any time you're setting up a new GTM container. So we're going to do this with GA4 tags. We're going to set up the GA4 configuration tag. We're going to set up different event tracking for clicks and scrolls. So let's jump in. All right, so first things first is we already have our Google Tag Manager container installed on the website. It's going to be a brand new fresh GTM container. And so we need to grab our GA4 measurement ID and set up our first GA4 config tag. So to do that, let's go to Google Analytics. Let's go to admin, find my data stream here, click into it, and then we can grab the measurement ID right here. So I'm going to copy this. Let's come back to Google Tag Manager. We're going to go to Tags, New Tag, set up a GA4 configuration. This is the first tag that always needs to be set up. And then here we would paste in the measurement ID. Now what I'm actually going to do to make it easier for future changing is I'm going to create a constant variable for this instead. So it's going to be GA4 with the measurement ID. That's how I like to do it. And then it's going to be a type of constant, and we're just going to paste the value in there as well. That way, if we're ever going to edit this variable for some reason and it's in multiple places, we can just change it in the variables tab instead of finding everywhere that it was inputted. So we're going to have that measurement ID right there. And then we're going to give this a title. So GA4 configuration. And we want this to fire on all pages. So let's look at what other settings we have. So send a page view event when the configuration loads. Yes, we want that on all pages. That is absolutely fine. And then here we have things for field to set and user properties. Now for all of the page view events, I know that because this is a WooCommerce site or a WordPress site, I know there's some data available that I would want to pass per page view. If I look under what the current data layer is, and I look under this data object, I can see that the page post type has a value of front page. Well, I may want to have what the page post type is for all of the different pages dynamically as I'm visiting. So let's see, this should be like a product page. So page post type is now product, right? Okay, so let's create a new data layer variable for this page post type and use that page post type and use that in our configuration tag. So let's go like this, data layer variable for page post type, and it is a data layer variable. And was it underscores or how was it? Let's go look again. Nope, camel case. So page post type, page post type. And I'm actually going to edit this so it matches, so there's no confusion there. But with GA4 events in the actual field, GA4 likes to have undercase everything. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do page post type. And the other thing we're going to include with all of our configurations is the scrollable height. So to do this, scrollable height. This is the height of the page. So we're going to create a new custom JavaScript variable to do this, and it's going to look like this. So all custom JavaScript variables have to have the anonymous function and then return something. So in this case, what we want to return in order to get the scrollable height is basically it's a JavaScript variable that all the browsers have and the pages have. So I think it's under window dot body dot scroll height, I believe. And we can actually check this if we visit the page and right click, go to inspect under console. If we start typing this in, so window dot body dot scroll, oh, it's not window, sorry, it's document. There we go, document dot body dot scroll height should return the height in pixels for us. So there we go. So document.body.scroll height, not window, document. There we go. And let's give this custom JavaScript for scroll height. Okay. All right, so now in our configuration tag, we are going to be sending with every page view and every tag on that page what the page post type is, if we want to filter and organize our data by different post types, and then also having the scrollable height. So just an example of what you can do with custom JavaScript variables, as well as adding that to the configuration tag itself. So let's go ahead and hit save there. And that is it. That's all we needed to do for the configuration tag. Now let's go ahead and set up some click tracking tags to track all of the different clicks that happen on our website. To get started with this, we need to enable some variables first. So this is a brand new GTM container. You may have these enabled already, but we're going to go to the built-in variables, go to configure, and just turn on our click variables here. So we want to know what is happening when we actually make clicks. What is the data we have available to us? So we're going to enable our click variables. Later, we will come back and turn on our scrolling, but we'll do that when we start setting up scrolling. The next thing we want to do is come under triggers and set up listener triggers. So we want to be able to identify when do clicks happen. So we need to set up the triggers in order to listen for all of these different clicks. So let's start with just links, and let's call this a click, and this is all link clicks. So no other settings really we need to do. We're just going to say this trigger fires on all link clicks, and we'll hit save. Okay, now we have a trigger which is going to listen for all of the different link clicks. At this point, let's go ahead and preview our container to see kind of where we're at in terms of the configuration and this all link clicks trigger. So we'll hit connect. It's going to open up in a new tab. So tag manager connected. And what I would expect to see here is on the initialization or the container loaded, we should have ours. So this is the page view event, GA4 configuration. So that should have sent the page view. In addition to, if we click into this, we should have the different variables that we set. So we know what the page post type is. Front page was sent to Google Analytics, and the scrollable height had a value of 915, and that comes from our custom JavaScript variable. Okay, so far the configuration seems to be working. Let's click on some links. So here's should be a link click. Let's click back, click into a product. I know I also had a outbound link here, so let's click there and then view what we see inside of our debug mode. So if we come down, here we have a link click. Now this only shows up because we have that link click listener trigger set up, so we can see that. What other link clicks? Okay, here we can see another link click when I left that page. Here's a link click, and then we should see that link click with outbound clicks. Perfect. Okay, so now we can look at this new link click event and see what are the variables that have data associated with this. So we're going to come down to variables, and all of these new click variables that we enabled will have some data. So we've got click ID, click target, click text, and click URL. So we can use these click text and click URL to build a link click trigger and tag. So let's go to our tags now. We're going to create a new GA4 event tag. We're going to choose the configuration that we just set up. And then the event name, we're going to put it as click. And this is the standard event name that GA4 uses for clicks. Now for event parameters, we're going to specify the link URL. We're going to specify the link text, the link classes, the link domain, the link ID, and whether or not this is outbound or not. Okay, so these are all the properties that we're going to fill in, and most of these we can use just those built-in click variables that we enabled. So these are built in by default. So click text, click classes, and let's skip down here and do click ID. Okay, now these other two are going to be custom variables, not the built-in ones. So let's start with this outbound one. How do we determine if a link is outbound or not? So we're going to, for this, we're going to build a custom JavaScript variable we're going to choose the custom JavaScript variable, and here we are going to write our custom JavaScript variable to know if it is a inbound or outbound click. So in order to test this, in order to know if it's an inbound or outbound click, we're going to do a bit of a condition here. So we need to check a few things. So before we return an actual value, we're going to say if the click URL includes a value that matches that of the current page hostname, then we're going to say return true, meaning yes, this is, we're going to return false. And we're going to say no, this is not an outbound click. So if the click URL text or the URL includes a value that matches the current page hostname, then it's not outbound because they match. Else, so if it doesn't match, we're going to return true, meaning yes, it is an outbound click. So let's call this our custom JavaScript variable, outbound click, question mark. So it's telling us if it's an outbound click or not. So we're going to hit save. Then we're going to come and go to our tags, back to our link click tag here. And for outbound, we're going to input our new custom JavaScript variable that we just made. Custom JavaScript variable, is it outbound or not? For the link domain here, what we actually want to do is get just the host name for the outbound link click. So not like the page path or all the other stuff. So to do that, the most simple way is we're actually going to just use another variable, but this variable is going to come from the community gallery, and it's a URL parsing variable. So parse URL parser. Let's add this to our workspace. Select the new URL parser. Sometimes we have to like go back here. Select URL parser, and then what is the input or URL variable? So we want to parse the click URL because we just want to get a certain part of it, and we want the full host name. So we only want to return the host name for the click URL just to be able to aggregate all of the outbound clicks by outbound host names to make it that easy. So here we're going to call this a URL parsing variable for the full host name. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And then we have our new variable right there. Okay, so with our click event here, let's go ahead and save that and hit preview. Once this loads up, we can see that configuration is already fired, but not link clicks, which makes sense. So let's do a few link clicks and let's do our outbound click. So now what I would expect to see is on the link click here it is. We have our GA4 link clicks event that fired. Here's the link URL pointing to Data Studio VIP. Link text was outbound link, which is true because it was outbound. Includes all of the classes, and the link domain. So this is that parsing variable that's only stripping out just the hostname part of the URL. There was no link ID, and outbound value is set to true, which is true because it is outbound. If we come and look at the link click here, where we went from one page to another, I would expect to actually see that the outbound flag or property here is set to false because it was not an outbound link. Otherwise, we have everything else here. We've got the link URL, the link text, the class, just the link domain, and value set to false. So that is the link click trigger that we have set up as part of our GA4 template. Now let's set up one more tag for our base configuration, which is going to be for scroll depth. So to do that, we need to come back to variables, and we need to enable the built-in variables for scroll if they are not enabled already. So we'll go ahead and enable those. Then we need to set up our trigger. So this is going to be scroll, and we're going to fire it on the depths of 10. Let's go 25, 50, 75, and 90. Turn our configuration into a scroll depth type for vertical scroll depth of these values right here, 10, 25, 50, 75, and 90. And we'll go ahead and hit save. Now we can build our actual GA4 event tag. So we'll come and create a GA4 event, select our configuration, and this one will be called scroll. And for the event parameters, the parameter name is % scrolled. So this is the name that GA4 has assigned for their different scroll events. Scroll is something that is captured by their enhanced measurement automatically, but keep in mind that it's only the 90% scroll that it tracks. So if we actually come back here and we can see enhanced measurement, it looks like scroll is selected here. If we click into this, it says scroll capture scroll events each time a visitor gets to the bottom of the page, which technically is at the 90% mark. We're going to set up the 90% scroll tracking through GTM, so we would actually just turn this off. And same with the outbound clicks, we actually are tracking that through GTM now, so I'm going to hit save on those settings, come back to our GTM, and then for the % scrolled value here, we're going to reference dynamically the scroll depth threshold built-in variable that we just enabled. And this will tell us if the scroll was 10, 25, 50, 75, or whatever that is. So then under trigger, we have our new scroll depth trigger right here, and we can name this GA4 scroll and hit save for that. Let's preview this. All right, so at this point, I don't think I'm at the 75 or 90% mark, but we can see that now immediately when the page loads, I have in my timeline scroll depth events. So here's the 10, 25, and 50. So I haven't actually hit the 75 or 90 mark yet, but if I come down and scroll just a little bit more, we should see those new. Okay, yep, so here's 75 and here is 90 under our tags fired. We should see the same thing come in where it has a value of 90 because we are dynamically referencing the scroll depth threshold built-in GTM variable. So there it is. That is a quick overview of setting up some tags for a base GA4 kind of starter template that we use for all of our different clients. This is how you would set up the configuration to have some custom properties, the link clicks to have properties that Google Analytics has kind of reserved. So we're just using the same event name properties that they would be using. So link URL, link text, classes, and choosing if it's outbound or not. And then the scroll, where we're just simply setting the % scrolled property. Thank you so much for watching this video on setting up these different tags for a GA4 starter template. If you want to download this exact container that we set up with all of the custom JavaScript variables and everything enabled, go ahead and click the link in the description where you can go and download this exact template. All right, guys, see you in the next video.